Okay. Good morning, guys, and welcome to our daily news podcast. Today's topic is how does war impact children? I have my co-stars here, Karim and Farook, and they'll be helping me address this issue and relay it to you guys. But first, we'd like to say thank you to our sponsor, the World Health Organization, who has helped us not only gather the first-hand information, but also give us images and furthermore show how the war impacted children. So, Farouk, what would you like to be talking about first?
Okay, so we can first start talking about physical health and how war destroys children's physical health and their mental health as well. Things we've seen throughout the years in war is that the war destroys hospitals and health centers, which the kids need to survive in these situations. And many children have died from treatable diseases because of the absence of medical attention. And many of the children have been disabled from the effects of the war in Afghanistan.
But what do you think is the most popular in physical health, not popular, but what has been the most seen physical health issue between children who have been impacted by war?
One of the most seen cases of physical health being impacted on children is injuries that have come onto them from collapsed buildings, and we've also seen diseases spread out from not having these medical centers and hospitals during the wars.
All right. But Karim, what would you think? How does this shaped the child from the war? What kind of deformities, or not? We can't call them that, but how is this what has it done to the child?
So during the war, a child that lives through war, so he can be paralyzed or see his parents die, his sisters and brothers, etc. Let's give an example from the kite runner. So during the kite runner, Farid, which had 7 children, 2 of his children have died, which are his daughters, from a landmine explosion. And also, from this same landmine explosion, Farid has lost 2 fingers. So you can see how that, the death of his 2 daughters have affected him and his other 5 kids.
And plus, isn't there some kind of correlation, 2 daughters and he loses 2 fingers,
Yeah.
Not only that, but maybe that's just written, but still you understand a man loses 2 of his daughters to a landmine. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah, of course.
This must have impacted him not only physically, but especially mentally. And I'd really like to talk about their mental health, because I believe that's the thing what's most affected. As you see, you always look at these refugee camps and everything, all these children have PTSD. They're scared of loud noises. They hear loud noises, they think it's a bomb or an airplane going off. This really makes them down, because they can't feel any sense of joy. These kids have to always be on the nerve, as they always think something will really happen to him. And I think a great example of this would be Amir in the kite runner, as after the Taliban lost control of Kabul at the time to, I guess, the Soviet Union, right? There was a survey done in Afghanistan, but 42% of Afghans suffered from post-traumatic stress, better known as PTSD. Amir was a Lefti Pashtun child that lived in Kabul, Afghanistan. He had servants, what were they? Hassan and Ali, right? He was living the life of the most lavish life you can in Afghanistan, and boom, in an instant, the Taliban invades Kabul, right? And he has to flee with his father, and all this fleeing and going and seeing war and seeing raped women and how the Taliban treats people, and just it made him always on the nerve. He was always afraid, even until he got to America. So he really did not know what he could really expect.
So what are some things that what are some statistics that you have on children's mental health during these times of war, and how can you connect them to the kite runner?
Well, provided again by our sponsor, the World Health Organization, approximately 45 million children will be exposed to violence during their childhood, mostly in those Middle Eastern and African regions, purely due to these extremist groups like the Taliban, ISIS. Furthermore examples. Another example I'd say, especially from the kite runners by Khalil Hosani, is touching again mostly to Amir, as we really only have his perspective again for how his mental health was affected by the war, as losing loved ones family and friends, and just his overall life, like what he was used to, because he went from everything to nothing.
So do you think Amir has been diagnosed by PTSD?
It's not that I think that he has, it's just like, it's something that probably develops with him over time. Because it's a disease that doesn't like happen like this, but it develops over recurring events.
But I have a feeling that Hassan hasn't been like, you know, like open with his mental health and hasn't shown any signs of PTSD.
You don't really want to be open about things like this because then people will pressure you on it. Because then you can get bullied for it, right? People can just be like clapping next to your ear and you'd be like, oh, like, you know, like it's not only like your mental health, but your body will react to it too. Not only like how you feel in your head.
And Farouk, do you think like there's a reason why Hassan hasn't talked about him being raped to his father, to his friends?
How I see it is that Hassan has like this thing inside him that if he says anything, he'll feel like as if they are gonna judge him about this happening, and he doesn't want to get judged and be called certain names because of something that has happened to him and it was not in his power. And touching on mental health in war, going to PTSD, so we see many people that suffer from PTSD also suffer deep feelings of guilt and shame throughout their lives. And the guilt is internal and it focuses on feeling of responsibility for the outcome of an event.
Well, yeah, because they're like, I'm the one who survived, but my friends didn't, or my mother didn't, or my brother or sister didn't. They have just like physical guilt, and not physical and mental guilt is why me? Why did I have to survive and these people had to die?
Yeah, definitely.
It's like they also wish to die with their friends.
Yeah, they wish to die with their friends because who else do they have? It's as if they have to start all over again. It's like being born again because you have no one to go to. You don't have a mother, you don't have a father, let's say anymore. Like, what are you gonna do?
And the conditions as well don't help you to restart and have a good life.
Not at all.
So you're gonna be suffering for the rest of your life, most probably by yourself.
Yeah. So Karim, furthermore topic what we'd like to go into of like how is sexual assault like through war occurring events like affected children in general?
So like we said, Hassan has been affected by sexual assault, and during war is even harder. So he can't like focus on many things. You know, he's getting raped, he's getting his house destroyed, his friends, his families, and that would like most certainly affect him in a big way and change how he is and his mental health.
Yeah, plus like as I said here, 82% of all juvenile sexual assault victims are female. Not only going to the example of Hassan from the Kai Runner, but it's mostly to females. And we also saw that example in Kai Runner, if you remember, where they were traveling in a truck to get out of Afghanistan before fleeing to America, and the soldiers were like, I think it was the Soviet soldiers, like to the woman
at the checkpoint.
At the checkpoint, they're like, okay, if you give us her, we'll let you go. Like, that's again another statistic, as I think that woman was probably very young also. And plus 90% of adult rape victims are female. This is adult, not only to the 82% being juvenile females.
But you know, like she was like someone stood for her. You know, she.
Well, yeah, it was Amir's father.
Yeah, Amir's
Baba.
father.
Yeah.
He stood for her, so that's great. And what do you think about displacement? How like moving to a new country, leaving all your friends behind, your home, and how you can settle to a new country?
Well, I'm not like super sure about displacement, but I have like a general broad knowledge of that. Like as these children, they lose their homes, they lose their schools, they lose their grandparents' house, their uncle's house. Where can they go? Their only place usually is a refugee camp or on the streets, which the streets or the refugee camp are not the safest places. Where we see typically in children getting very sick, especially going back to the physical health, is there is no proper medical treatment after they get displaced. It's usually they're separated from their mother, from their family. Like who would they go to? But I think Farook has some more further knowledge on this topic.
Yeah, and we see that as they arrive in these new countries or in these new places, children like experience like severe stress-related conflicts within themselves because they can't adapt to the place that they've arrived in, whatever the reason might be, if they're homesick or because of everything they've seen throughout the war, or if the conditions in these places are not fit for a good life. And we see in these places that children do not get this good life, as they also have a limited access to a quality education. So if they want to extend their, like, if they want to work or if they want to start something to help them boost their careers, or like just start a life all over again, nothing helps them to do that.
Right, like when Baba got like, a new job, like right in Afghanistan, he was like a successful man.
Yeah,
had
he
a
was the
good
man
job.
there.
Yeah,
He had all the connections with the generals
of course.
and all the politics, but
And
when he goes to America, what happens to him?
Yeah, he worked at the gas station.
Yeah, convenience store also, like,
And he didn't mind it because he knew like that he had to work his way to the top.
again,
So he doesn't mind working anything that gives him money and like makes him feel like he's doing something. And it's like a job in a new country like makes you start to get used to it.
yeah, because first of all, you're also hands-on. But another like key issue that ties back to displacement is immigration. Like, how did, like, if you remember, it was very hard to bring Sohrab, the boy, back to America. As like, what can Amir do? Like, he has no birth papers, and like, you really had to go into like you had to not only do like black stuff, like, you know, black market stuff, I would call it, but like, you really had to go like to really far to make like ends meet to bring Sohrab to America. As like, the government really didn't care. They say, oh, it will take 2-3 years. He has to go back to foster house.
Yeah.
Like, they don't understand like that. Where can I find a birth certificate for the child?
And
If
how
the
do you
father
feel
is
like
dead.
you know how Amir took care of Sorab? And do you think it's like there's a reason for it that he took care of Sorab, like because he feels bad?
Well,
what he
of
did to
course,
Hassan?
because it's guilt that like he left Hassan in Afghanistan. He just left him. Him and his father, Amir and Baba, they just left, leaving Hassan there. Like, what can the person do? And then furthermore, having kids and then eventually dying. Like, you know, he has like some sort of responsibility, as he wants to like sort of atone for his sins. As before, I think he lied to Baba that it was Hassan who put the money somewhere under the mattress. Like, there was some event, as like he really wants to atone for his sins.
Yeah, he also wanted to be hit because he felt bad for it, right? You remember when he fought Asif?
Asif the bully, you're
Yeah,
right.
when he got like hit hard, he felt good that he got what he deserved.
It's like
Because he slingshotted him, right?
yeah, and it's like all this guilt and shame that he had inside of him, once he got hit, got all relieved. And
I feel like Sorab is like his redemption for what he did for Hassan, because he took him to America, and then once he took him to America, he got him a visa. He did all that trouble just to like make sure that Hassan's kid is safe. And at the end of the day, Sohrab also like he tried to kill himself, right?
Yeah, in the
He
bathtub
didn't
the
feel
first day, like
Yeah,
he wasn't even speaking at
he
first.
didn't feel like he belonged there.
Of course.
But at the end of the day, you know, at the end where like he was flying the kites and he taught him, and he said,
Yeah,
I would do it over 1,000 times.
of course.
And
The
then
last final quote.
Sorab smiled. So it's the first step.
But I think like our most key issue would be the like what happens to war children is the impact on their education.
definitely.
And would one of you like to go further more into that topic?
Yeah, so speaking on that, we see that when there's a lack of good education, children cannot do anything with their lives. If they see their path, let's say for example, these children are in a refugee camp. When there's no education offered at these refugee camps, I feel like their brain automatically tells them that this is where you're going to live, and you're gonna have to work here. You're gonna have to stay here for your whole life. So they have nothing to boost their confidence to try and go out into the world or try and find help from an outer source to improve themselves, because this is their norm. So if they step out of their like comfort zone, they would probably not feel very comfortable about that.
Yeah, and also like without like education, they won't get a degree, they won't get a good life, and no one would even look at them.
Of course,
They
how
get
can
the
they get
work.
a job? Their only quote unquote experience is really like being hands on.
Yeah,
Because they had to like make their own house. put a roof over their head literally by making it themselves.
Yeah, but no paper qualifications that can
Of
really.
course, nothing,
Yeah.
because they don't have access to education.
And also, like, let's say schools there, they get bombed. There's no way you can get education during war. Like, it's impossible.
Well, I think that's it for today, and again, thank you for watching our podcast on impact of war on children, and thank you again to our sponsor, the World Health Organization.
We hope you enjoyed this. See you next